Hello again, welcome back to IndyCar on the 31st of January. Now, at the end of the month sees the publication of one major report, one major economic report, published today by a reputable source, and looks at the effects that Brexit has had on both the British economy, tourism, unemployment, migration, and a whole lot of other factors built in as well. And as if we actually needed any further evidence of just how much destruction Brexit has actually caused to everybody who lives on these islands, I'm going to reel off some of the findings and the predictions coming from this economic report. Now, the first one is looking at the size of the UK economy as it should have been, and as it actually is after we've left the European Union. Now, it's been shown already that the United Kingdom's economy has already shrunk by over 6% since we left the European Union. Now, not only that, but the report findings also predict that by 2030, the United Kingdom's economy will have shrunk not by just 6%, but by 10%. So that's losing an entire tenth out of the value of the United Kingdom economy simply by taking this ridiculous decision to leave the European Union and abandoning the 28 now countries that we should and could have been freely trading with. But not only that, it also hurts employment. Now, it's been said in this report that unemployment is set to rise by 7%. And that means an increase in unemployment of over 2 million people. Now, that's a really huge number, and that would push the unemployment figures in the United Kingdom up to the levels of the 1980s recession, which was triggered by Margaret Thatcher's destruction of our manufacturing industries. But not content with that, the tourism industry in the United Kingdom has also been heavily damaged, and there is an open letter published in the British media from I think you'd say it's a group of British retailers and tourism companies, and basically everybody who's affected by a reduction in tourism. And they've said that since we left the European Union, EU tourists, because of a new Tory policy which actually scraps tax-free shopping for people coming in from the European Union, has meant that the United Kingdom has effectively deterred over 2 million European Union tourists from coming to the United Kingdom and spending their money here. This is hurting not only the retailers at airports and ports of entry, but also the hotel industry, the tourism industry, and all of the kinds of visitor attractions which we would normally see European Union tourists spending their money in. And this particular group of companies, and these are big blue chip UK companies, have asked, or not even asked, they've demanded that the Tories reverse this ridiculous legislation, which means that tourists coming from the European Union uniquely do not get tax-free spending at the point of entry. And because of that, as I've said, this has caused a major drop in the number of tourists coming into the UK from Europe. Now, the next thing which I think we need to mention is migration. Now, if you believe the nonsense perpetrated by the Vote Leave campaign during the Brexit, I think we would have to say it was a campaign either for leaving or staying, but the Leave campaign claimed that this would stop migration. This would stop the growth of migration into the United Kingdom and relieve the pressure on its public services and its housing sector. Has that happened? No. The reverse has happened. Migration into the UK has actually risen, and that is because the Tory government had liberalised the non-EU migration policies. In other words, people coming from anywhere else in the world other than the EU were given basically a free ride, and so we've ended up with more people entering the United Kingdom. And it's not about illegal boat people coming in rubber dinghies. This is people coming in legitimately and working and living here. So migration has not dropped, it has risen. And then we come back to food price inflation, because we are outside the EU, and the European Union and the UK's agreement to defer the imposition of duties and taxes and customs checks has now ended. tomorrow we'll see for the first time these new rules being enforced by the European Union, and that means higher taxation on all foodstuffs and goods coming from the EU into our retailers. That means supermarket prices for over 40% of the foods that we buy and eat every day are going to start rising. And they're going to start rising at an alarming rate because of the additional costs, the delays, and the taxation having to be paid on these foodstuffs coming into our markets. Now, to cap it all, as if all of that was not bad enough to convince you that being in the United Kingdom and being forced to leave the EU against the majority of Scots people's wishes, as if that wasn't bad enough, this initial report from the economic experts, and these are respected academics incidentally, according to them, if we had remained in the European Union instead of leaving, then we should have seen the United Kingdom's economy growing faster than anybody else's in Europe. And not just growing faster than anyone else's in Europe, but almost equaling the growth rate in the United States. And that should have meant that by now, the British economy should have increased in size by 6%. And that would put us on par with the growth rate and the rate of investment, jobs growth that we are seeing in the United States. So I think it's fair to say that this respected, and I would say, as I've said, this is a legitimate exercise conducted by experts and makes projections based on current Office for National Statistics information, that this particular report basically is damning. It is the evidence, if you needed any further evidence, that remaining in the United Kingdom for Scotland is now not a viable option. We are going to go down with the sinking ship. Our economy is going to contract. Incidentally, our immigration rate is not rising because the United Kingdom has no policy to actually disperse new migrants to Scotland where they're actually needed. So we don't get any proper migration into Scotland that we actually need. So that's never going to happen. But the idea that our economy, because we're stuck in the United Kingdom, is shrunk by 6% and it's going to shrink by a further 10% by 2030 should alarm all of us, especially when you combine that with the growth, or should I say the rise, of unemployment, a spectre that we hope we'd never see again since the days of Margaret Thatcher. I think it's fair to say that we don't really need in Scotland to be told that Brexit was bad. We knew it was bad from the beginning, but this is confirmation coming from a reliable source that can't really be ignored. And it can't really be ignored by anybody in any part of the United Kingdom, in Northern Ireland, Wales, or in England. This is a damning report, and it projects the United Kingdom basically circling the drain economically now because of a stupid decision made by people who believed the lies of far-right Brexit extremists a few years ago. So it's never been more important than it is now for Scotland to leave the United Kingdom before any further damage can be done to us, because it's only going to get worse. Anyway, I'm sorry it's a rather pessimistic show, but I thought it was worth reporting this today. I'll be back again later in the week. I'd like to thank everybody who responded to my appeal for funding. This crowdfunder, normally I don't do these things unless I am really struggling, so I wanted to thank everybody who responded. It has boosted my coffers greatly, and I'm able now to continue making these shows virtually every day as a result. So thank you to everybody who has already donated, those of you who've set up regular donations, and anybody who has subscribed to this channel. You can now subscribe to the channel for a small fee. It's a very, very low fee if you want to do it. And that also helps me to generate some badly needed income to support creating new content. I've been refused by Facebook to have any ads inserted into my live streams. The reason apparently is that I have not got enough live views per month. I think they're looking for something ridiculous like 600,000 live views. It's an immense amount of views they're looking for to attract advertising. I think it's unlikely that I'll get there, so I don't think we're going to see adverts on these programs anytime soon. which is probably a relief to all of us. Anyway, that's it from IndyCar today. I'll see you again later in the week when I hope to have some more positive news for you. But I think if you share this as widely as possible, and particularly point this out to friends who may not realise that being trapped in the Union is a really bad idea for Scotland. They may be wavering, they may have voted for Brexit, they may not want to be reminded of how stupid that decision was, but I think we really need to put it out there. That's it from me today. Keep the faith as usual, and I'll see you later in the week. Bye for now.